This movie is proof that studio meddling isn't just a modern Hollywood problem, but it's also proof that if you have the right person in the driver's seat, you can overcome it. Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Alien 3, the Godfather 3 of the Alien movie saga. And not just because it's the third entry in the series. Alien 3 was tasked with following up two of the greatest sci-fi movies ever created. Much like Godfather 3, that was going to be a tall task no matter what the final product ended up looking like. Because it would always be compared to its classic predecessors, maybe unjustifiably.
It's fucking great, man! Now what the fuck are we supposed to do?
And it was never going to help this film that it faced so much turmoil during production. Seriously, it makes the upcoming Flash movie's production look like a walk in the park.
Bye!
From various directors and writers constantly being shuffled in and out, Ridley Scott was even rumored to return at one point. And believe it or not, they actually tried to start shooting scenes before they had a final script in hand. Everything about this movie screams disaster, but I'm here to tell you that I don't think it's as horrible as everyone says that it is.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot, it's serious!
So that's why today I'm going to be defending Alien 3. First and foremost, it's not going to help the audience's reception to a movie to see a trailer that ends up having nothing to do with the actual final product. Because that was the case for Alien 3, and I don't think there are many movies that you can say that for. From the start, it was set up to fail because it had an initial teaser trailer that made it seem like the events of the film were going to take place on Earth.
On Earth, everyone can hear you scream.
And not following through on that was surely going to piss some people off, and it did, and understandably so. And this was all made possible by 20th Century Fox and their endless line of writers not being able to lock down a solid direction for this sequel. Perhaps they felt the pressure of trying to follow up those two classic films.
Help me, help you.
But when it eventually did become time to start filming, they hired a little-known first-time feature film director named David Fincher, who ended up becoming one of my all-time favorite directors, by the way. But at this point, he wasn't the David Fincher, so they didn't really trust him yet, and I kind of understand that. But I've always been of the opinion if you're going to hire someone to do a job, then let them do it. Obviously, you saw something in him that made you want to hire him in the first place.
That makes sense.
Knowing what we know now, if the studio would have gotten out of the way and handed over full control to David Fincher, I'm confident that we would have gotten a much less controversial version of this film. We may have even received another classic, but hindsight is 20/20 in this situation. Truth is that even though David Fincher has since disowned this film due to his lack of creative freedom, I strongly believe that his involvement is what saved it from being a complete disaster.
No shit.
Because in my opinion, that's what a great director can do. They can make the best out of a fucked up situation. And even early in his career, Fincher had the talent to do just that. And by the way, the assembly cut of this film, which is essentially the director's cut without the director's involvement, actually improves upon it quite a bit. And you can see that it's probably much closer to what Fincher originally had in mind.
I like it a lot.
Regardless of which version of this film you watch, I strongly believe that Fincher's touch for creating atmosphere is on full display in Alien 3 and is one of the highlights of the film for sure. There's just something very Fincher about going through these dark tunnels and being stalked by a killer alien. I think a lot of the negativity for this film is directed at its story, and specifically how the story begins. Yes, spoiler alert, Hicks and Newt are dead at the start of this film, and they die off screen much to the chagrin of a lot of Aliens fans.
They're dead, alright? Can I go now?
I understand how that can be a bit frustrating for fans of Aliens. Hell, I was even frustrated by it. And a lot of us had the desire to see Ripley finally be able to be happy with her new surrogate family. But the truth is that I believe the turn of events that happens in Alien 3 actually does fit into Ripley's story much better than people realize. Ripley, to me, has always been a tragic character. She was a normal woman thrust into this situation with evil corporations and killer aliens.
Why do these things always happen to me?
Her whole story to me involves loss, and her overcoming grief as well as these life-threatening situations. And Alien 3 really does play into that. There is no peace for a character like Ripley. Newton Hicks are literally taken away from her and there was absolutely nothing she could do about it. After that, she just so happens to land on a dangerous planet that is inhabited by a bunch of degenerate inmates who at first only want to cause her harm. Oh, and by the way, a facehugger was on board her ship and impregnated a dog or a bull, depending on which version of this movie you watch. So her greatest enemy, a xenomorph, is now loose on the planet with her as well. And by the way, there's no weapons available to her to fight this alien. To complicate things even further, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is on their way to this planet because they are looking to capture the alien and use it as a weapon. And if we go even further, Ripley also finds out that she herself has an alien growing inside of her.
Fuck me, right?
Show me another movie where the main character is forced to deal with so much. The deck is firmly stacked against Ripley in this movie. And you know what? Ripley does deal with this situation like only she can. And we believe in her as an audience because we've seen her grow over the course of 3 films. She manages to actually unify these inmates who do not like her to fight a common enemy, and even becomes a de facto leader to them of sorts. And they actually defeat the alien without the use of weapons and only using what they have around them. And they all start to believe in her because of her knowledge of the creature, as well as the way that she manages to handle herself in this situation.
Show me everything. I can handle myself.
To me, Alien 3 solidifies the Ripley character that's been building since the first film. She has a very clear arc that concludes in Alien 3 in a somewhat satisfying way. What better way for Ripley to go out than defying the Weyland Corporation one last time, and sacrificing herself so they can't get their hands on the creature that is growing inside of her. She's been warning them and straight up disrupting their plans and regulations since we met her to try to keep them from obtaining this alien species. To me, Alien 3 gives the greatest female character of a generation a fitting ending, as tragic as that ending may be.
Why do you cry?
The fact of the matter is that Ripley was never going to be allowed to ride off into the sunset knowing what she knows and seeing what she has seen. She was forever going to be connected with this alien species. And this corporation was always going to be looking over her shoulder and trying to use her for their own personal gain. In a lot of ways, her death was the only way she was ever going to find peace.
Jesus fucking Christ, it's about time!
And that fact is enhanced and even kind of undone with the events of the following movie, Alien Resurrection. Because even when Ripley is dead, they still won't leave her alone. Because they have something to gain from her existence. It's like having a cat, really. And that's the overall idea behind the Alien franchise to me. Yes, the xenomorphs are the direct threat, but the real conflict comes from this evil organization trying to capitalize on this horrible situation, even if that means sacrificing other human lives. Alien 3 is a dark and depressing movie that feels like a gut punch from its opening moments. But really, that's the world that the characters in Alien live in. And it's interesting to think that at least one person on that massive writing team realized that. And I'm sure David Fincher realized that as well, and that's why in a lot of ways he was the perfect choice for this project.
Because it's all part of the plan.
Especially if you take into account what he would go on to do and what he would go on to be known for. I'm not saying that Alien 3 is a masterpiece, but it is a back-to-basics approach that returns the franchise to the first film's horror roots. And that is shown through the emotional horror of Ripley's story as well as the physical horror of the alien creature itself. I strongly encourage anyone who hasn't seen Alien 3 in some time to give it another go with a fresh pair of eyes. I actually think it's a lot better than people give it credit for, and that's why I'm going to give it the Pleased Palpatine.
Good. Good.
Y'all be cool. Right on.